Austria continue to dominate the Mitropa Cup in round 4. They convincingly defeated Hungary by 3-1. The team in second position, Germany, were playing Switzerland. They didn't have such an easy time of it. 3 games were drawn. This was the decisive game. It's a game between Dennis Wagner and Roland Loetscher from Switzerland. And we joined the game after 44 moves. Now, Wagner is doing well. It got complicated, but basically he's outplayed his opponent. Wagner has an extra bishop. Black has a lot of pawns here. They're heading in this direction. I know it's a slightly confusing position. But really the crucial thing here is that Black's king is in severe danger of being checkmated. White's pieces are massing around the king, and I think there's a relatively easy win here for White. I mean, White would like to play king f6 followed by rook d8 to mate. Of course, if king f6 straight away, then rook f2 check would check the king away. But White first plays bishop f3, so this blocks the f-file. Now, if knight g5 check, then just king f6, followed by rook mate. Or if rook f2, now obviously king f6 not possible here, but then rook f7 is a deadly check. If the king goes that way, then actually White can checkmate just with checks. It's actually very, very simple. Not difficult to find these moves, and that's a very attractive checkmate actually. Or if the king goes the other way to g8, then knight e4 is a winning move, obviously attacking rook and threatening knight f6, and rather handily that knight covers the g5 square, preventing Black from playing knight g5. Well, it might seem simple to me, but in the heat of battle and after over 4 hours play, perhaps it's not so simple. But in any case, Wagner played rook b7. So he obviously started to get a bit spooked by these pawns and perhaps was looking to take on b5 in case that pawn advanced. Black checked White's king away. This is good defence. Of course, if White wants to draw, then king e6 and then knight f4. But Wagner continued to play for a win. But Black defended well. Rook check, king went in, and another check. And again, if White wants to draw, then king h6 is the move. But instead he played for a win with king h4. And in fact, this is a very risky move. If Black had now found knight f4, covering the e6 square, and threatening something very nasty with g5, then, well, the winning chances could be with Black in that position. Instead, Black found knight e3, and the game lurched on, king h3. And now, well, rook f2 is a good move. White played e6. And here, well, a good move is rook f4. It's not so easy at first glance to understand why. Basically, you want to prevent White from playing knight e4, which is an important move. Instead, Black, after a couple of minutes' thought, took the bishop, and that wasn't the best. Knight e4 was winning on the spot after rook e2. Rook f7, knight d6, it's checkmate. If king d8, then rook d7. And if the rook hadn't gone to e2, well, let's random move rook f4, then you can see that that pawn would go home. For example, here, and knight d6. Well, in fact, that's I've managed to checkmate Black's king as well. So, utterly lost. So Wagner chanced his arm and it paid off, and Germany defeated Switzerland 2.5, 1.5, which means that at the top of the table Austria have 8 points, Germany have 7, And in round 5, those two teams will meet each other. So watch out for that. Should be a good one. In the women's section, Hungary are in the lead. They have 7 points. Italy have 6 points. I thought it would be nice to look at one of the games from the women's section. So this is from the match between Hungary and Austria. Loetscher Gara, playing for Hungary, has the white pieces here. I should say there are only these matches in the women's section. They're only played on 2 boards. Loetscher Gara from Hungary playing Katarina Newrkla for Austria. Apologies if I've butchered the pronunciation there. I thought this was an interesting opening from white. It's worth having a look at. So it's not it's a fairly open Sicilian, but instead of knight takes, queen takes d4, and I've played this move myself on quite a few occasions, and it's an interesting sideline, not to be underestimated. And Gara plays in quite a modern way here as well. Bishop b5. And now the old way of playing is just to take on c6. And then here either c4 or knight c3, and well, it's an interesting position. But instead, Gara played queen d3. This is quite a new way of playing the position. And also not to be underestimated. Basically, white has a pretty big lead in development here. Black's challenge is to try to develop without some kind of accident taking place. And it's not that simple. So you can see that white has developed all the pieces, but black has yet to castle. Probably the best move here, is perhaps h6, or perhaps knight g4 hitting that pawn. That just pegs white back a little bit. Although with knight g4, sometimes the knight can come into d5, and it's still a tricky position. But what black should not do is castle here. Of course, it's the move that black needs to make at some point. But this is a bit of a trap. White now played e5. And this is already extremely difficult. Funny thing is, Gara actually fell into this herself last year with black. And in that game, she played knight e8. And then, rook e1. I mean, white is dominating here. Problem is, it's still not very good to take on e5. Well, this is what happened in the game. And with simple exchanging tactics, white ended up in an endgame with a clear extra pawn and managed to convert that. I should mention, of course, that if this pawn is taken, then of course the bishop drops on d7. So in this game, black tried knight g4, which, it does hit f2 as well as the pawn on e5, but actually it's not too difficult to negotiate these tactics. Knight f2. So black actually wins an exchange, but there are massive problems on e7. Now black can try and hang on to material here with rook e8, but this is really bad actually. And obviously knight e7, the bishop will drop, and then the knight. That's a disaster. So black can try and play this position, but white has 2 pawns for the exchange, and fantastic attacking chances. Knight f6 or perhaps bishop h6 are coming. I really don't think black is going to survive that position. It looks dreadful. In the game, black tried queen a5 and decided to give back material. Well, I understand that, to at least try and gain some activity here. Oops, I beg your pardon. Yeah, to gain some activity. But now white has well, bishop and knight against a rook. So really, if white manages to consolidate this position, it should be winning. Okay, there's a few little details to iron out here because, of course, you know, there are some threats here. But, well, white played very vigorously and gave black no chance. Rook d5 is a good move, just hassling the queen. In fact, these bishops are superb because they prevent black's rooks from entering the game. They cover, you know, these central squares, and yeah, black has no chance here actually. And now here's a funny position after knight a4. In fact, black's queen is in huge trouble. If it goes back here, then there's bishop f4. That's very uncomfortable. So the queen went down to f2, but well, it's all these squares are covered. The queen is in big trouble here. Black tried knight e5, but now there are simple tactics that win material. This is how the game ended, and here, well, 4 minor pieces against 2 rooks is going to be a very, very easy win for the minor pieces. So a convincing victory, and yeah, as I said, Hungary leading in the women's section with 7 points. Italy just behind with 6. They have a strong team, so that contest is still open. But that variation with Queen d3 definitely worth a look at. So round 5, and watch out for the top clash: Austria against Germany in the open section.